Hello all and very warm welcome back to MEF CONNECTS Wholesale. If you've only just joined us, you join us on a track looking at the whole area of voice. We started with an analyst presentation from Patrick Christian from Telegeography, backed up with Frederick Freschel from Orange, and a lovely session there from Lang Telecom looking at all the regional challenges and indeed opportunities voice presents globally, and continuing with the voice trend, but also now merging and transitioning now more to messaging, which we're going to be moving into a session or two about, is an area called A2P voice flash calling. Now, this was brought to MEF and MEF members' attentions by what then Vox Carrier, now Vox Solutions, last October, so October 2021. It seems just like yesterday, but this topic has caught the imagination of MEF members around the world and indeed everybody. And there's still such a lack of knowledge about what it actually is. We've been hearing the previous session about short stopping and call stretching. I wasn't aware of those things, and I'm sure millions around the world are not aware of those. And we're here now to bring light to the topic of A2P voice flash calling. And thanks to Vox Solutions for sponsoring it. First, I'd like to introduce Ehsan Ahmadi, who is the CEO and founder of Vox. Hi. Hi, Ehsan. You're on mute, sir. You're doing my trick.
Hello, James.
Hello.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you. So we heard from Lang Telecom before, and I know you know those guys very well indeed. There's a lot of strong, close partnerships in the industry, and it's a very similar situation with you. You've been around for many years at Vox, and you started off in the world of voice. Just give us a little bit of background about Vox.
Vox, Vox is since 2011, yes, in the market, and we started with voice. And a couple of years ago, we merged to, 2014, we merged to anti-fraud solution for voice, and afterwards SMS, and then Flash. Now we as market evolved, we start to get into more type of solution to address the needs of MNOs, fake traffic. That's nowadays starting to harm big time MNOs on the SMS side.
Yeah,
both MNOs and OTTs. So we started to help also OTTs with the fake traffic. Trying to help all the whole ecosystem in all with everything we can do.
Fantastic. Yeah, we've seen wholesale evolving and companies evolving to have multiple product areas, and you're the absolute expression of that. So joining you today, I'd like to introduce Iulian Botirlaianu. Sorry, Iulian, if I maximize negative impact to your family name there, but a pleasure you joining us. You manage all the global strategic partnerships for Vox. Also joining me today is Carl Roberts, who is from Hadaara Consulting. Hi, Carl.
Hey, hi, James. Hi, Ehsan, Iulian. How are you all today?
Hello, everyone.
Good to have you with us. And rounding off the group is Sam Barker, Head of Analytics and Forecasting at Juniper Research. Hey, Sam.
Hello. Hi, James.
Hey, nice to have you with us. So as you can see here at MEF, we pack our event and sessions with analysts from so many different companies. We've got Hadaara, we've got Telegeography, we've got Juniper. So great to have you with us. Sam, let's get rocking and rolling with a presentation from Vox Solutions delivered by Iulian, just framing the topic, just teaching us what it is, what the issues are, and then we'll come to a discussion about it. So Iulian, take it away.
Thank you, James. So, okay, let's see how we can move this to the next slide. James, it seems I don't have any. Okay, thank you. So today's agenda, we'll be looking to the voice market evolution, the revenue opportunities we see in voice, and also some best practices from Vox. Okay, I have the control now. Thank you. Okay, so we know that the voice is a mature decline in market due to the changing of user habits and the increase of mobile data usage. Specifically, we have mobile ARPU, which is expected to continue decreasing while mobile data demand increases. We have mobile browsing, which is increasing at a higher rate, while these customer habits are further changing on the increasing penetration of smartphone and application usage. This will mean that more OTT will have more OTT penetration, and users are preferring using this data-driven communication channels, the OTTs, for making international calls. We have Skype, we have WhatsApp, and others, which we all know. Also, the users have the benefit of having better cost and more in-reach communication and features. So this is part of the changing habits. According to Juniper research, from 2019 to 2022, we have the voice market decreased over 6%. Also, we expect voice market pressures to resist for the next 5 years. According to Juniper research, we'll be looking to a decrease above 4%, up to 200 billion by 2026. Go to the next slide. So let's look a little bit to the revenue opportunities. So, of course, MNO must turn eyes to the existing opportunity to optimize the voice revenue, some of which significant today. While voice revenue are decreasing, we have high revenue leakage exists due to fraud. We have additional opportunities, but in order to leverage them, we have a prerequisite: eliminating the voice fraud. The additional opportunities that we can address post-fraud elimination are, we have, of course, flash call, where most MNOs are not aware or not being able to identify the flash call, while we can identify, monetize, and charge a premium for certain verticals. We have as well contact center as a service. We can capitalize on selling voice to these platforms via wholesale agreements. We have programmable voice. As the need for voice API increases, MNOs can take a portion of the generated revenue. Let's go to the next slide. So we have the fraud evolution. As per CFCA report on fraud, we have increases, of course, 2019 versus 2021 on all major fraud type. International revenue share fraud plus 15%, arbitrage plus 8%, interconnect bypass again increased plus 7%. Further, market is sufficient large enough to motivate fraudsters. We have telecom fraud actually increased 39%, 2021 versus 2019. And the majority of MNOs does not have actually the latest anti-fraud solution to efficiently mitigate this emerging fraud. In conclusion, while the voice revenue are under pressure, losses to this fraud types are increasing, calling for MNOs to improve the anti-fraud solution. Also, monetization projects with next generation solution can significantly increase the MNO revenues. Going for the next slide. Okay. So regarding the detection tool, the majority of telco operators today uses CDR analysis to mitigate fraud, but very few, a little bit over a third, uses signal record monitoring or SRM in real time. What's the difference and why it's so important? Well, CDR analysis for CDRs are, CDRs are done after the call is terminated. Basically, it's kind of a post-event and therefore a post-event analysis. On SRM, this examines the call from the beginning in real time as they're being set up. Therefore, the mitigation of fraud, it's kind of faster in also in real time. Using only CDRs versus using both CDRs and SRM is the difference between basically outdated versus innovative solution with real-time analysis and better results. According to CFCA, the usage of SRM for real-time detection is very low, a little bit over 36%. So we can conclude that most MNOs today, they have outdated solution for this emerging fraud today. We have a slide also on flash call, specifically one of the opportunity. According to Juniper research, we have flash increasing 25 times between 2022 and 2026, so kind of a 125% CAGR annually, from 5 billion to 128 billion, with the volume more doubling basically year on year. A2P voice or flash call is the highest growing traffic type. With better, it delivers better customer experience, safety. Flash call or A2P voice can charge a premium in certain verticals. As well, flash call can expand the 2FA or one-time password market, attracting more enterprises, and can be also multi-factor authentication channels for certain verticals. So MNO should pay attention first to monetizing flash call. Going forward. Okay, some best practices from Vox. Okay, Vox is the monetization market leader in the field of flash call or A2P voice, with more than 30 projects currently in implementation with MNOs around the globe, and is the only player addressing A2P voice monetization with both functional and multiple engagements in implementation across the world. Going to the next one. So we have some key points about our Vox 360 solution. We have proprietary firewall voice, unique in the market, omni-channel as well. Proprietary database and data mining engine, proprietary analytic engine, AI and machine learning algorithms, customizable portable GUI interface and business intelligence reports. We have penetration team and 24 non-stop available NOC and monetization team. And we provide monetization strategy consulting services, basically help on pricing strategy, anti-fraud best practices, all accumulated from our global project experience. And the last slide, a little bit about our solution impacts. While having more than 30 projects, our solution increased the A2P revenues more than 100%, basically more than doubling in a period of 1 year. Here we have some example of customers in LATAM, Middle East, CIS, all having more than 100% revenue increase in the first 12 months. We look forward helping MNOs to monetize and increase the voice and A2P revenue. Happy to discuss for more details. Thank you, James.
Iulian, thank you very much indeed. So that's the presentation about your company, everything. Ehsan, could you come in here and just explain to the audience, what is a flash call?
Good. I made sure I'm not on mute again, James. So flash call is basically, we name it A2P voice on the end of the day, similar to A2P SMS, when in the beginning we used to have only SMS and nobody used to say P2P SMS, A2P SMS. Now we have the same story with voice. We used to have voice and nobody used to talk about A2P voice much, but now we have A2P voice growing more and more, and we start to see a new real segment that people discussing more and more about it, A2P voice. So we are in an era of voice growing like SMS in 2010, when MNOs and enterprises starting to realize the value of behind SMS, and we have a product of A2P SMS growing big time. And now we see this happening with voice. Different reasons are SMS cost, the SMS termination cost increasing, and this push MNOs to look for alternatives. Meanwhile, Android start to support A2P voice and Flash, especially Flash, which the user experience of Flash is similar to SMS. So all these two main drivers pressure on the budget and cost of enterprises for looking for alternative solution for 2FA, and evolution in the technology and Android and so on may bring us here having A2P voice growing very fast. And we have Flash that now in some application offering very similar experience to SMS, and since it is not yet monetized, is also very cost effective. It's very cheap, and
that's a threat to A2P SMS volumes globally, particularly the international originated ones. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure, a bit more. Sam, you're from Sam Barker from Juniper Research. You were the first ones to really pick this up on the research angle and to really investigate this area. Where did you hear about this from?
It was actually from Vox itself. We were speaking to Ehsan. We were looking at the authentication market, or the mobile authentication market in general, and what was out there. We've been covering the voice market in general for a number of years, for 15 years or so. And when we heard about the idea of flash calling, and it was one of those that was being used, it slipped under the radar. And when we started to assess the impact that it could have, going back about a year ago now, the process and how the ecosystem and the frameworks work, even back then, you knew that this had the potential to disrupt A2P SMS markets, which, as you said, is a big thing for mobile operators.
Yeah, it is, because there's research out there from other organizations, and typically the revenues for A2P SMS, they vary for the large mobile network operator group surveyed that I'm aware of, range between 0.25% and 2.5%. Now, 2.5% doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking about collective group revenues of tens of billions, and the fact, most importantly, that monetized A2P SMS is ultra high margin, then that really does stack up and add up. So thanks, Sam. Carl, you're based, am I correct in saying you're based in the Middle East, aren't you?
Yep, that's correct. I'm in Dubai.
Fantastic. So what are you seeing with regards to A2P voice flash calling in your region in particular?
Well, I'll give you, I won't comment on the region because it's still very discreet here. But okay. What I can tell you, and I had a number of interesting conversations around this subject at ITW back in May, and carriers were in kind of three camps, right? There were those who were saying, wow, it's a fantastic opportunity, got to get into it. And I reminded them, as you very appropriately pointed out, that, by the way, this could eat into your A2P revenues if you're not careful. Said, yeah, but we need a cost-effective solution, so we're going to go off and do it. So that's kind of group number one, and some big tier ones in that group. We're not talking tier twos, tier threes. We're talking some large carriers. Others who say, "Oh my God, we can't control this. We're not getting paid for it. There must be something wrong with it, and we need to stop it." Hold that thought for a second. And then there's the in-betweenies who say, well, it looks interesting, but we're going to wait to see what the industry does. Now that was back in May. And some of the most vehement comments I had from those are saying, we've got to stop this because it's, it's fraud, it's this, it's that, it's the other. They're saying, okay, if we can control this, there's a business opportunity here, and they're starting to engage and discuss how they can participate and find a way of using this alongside A2P SMS, because there's still large and profitable revenue streams there. But the fact is that flash calling is out there, people are using it, and what really needs to happen more than anything else, I believe, is there needs to be a framework where everybody in the chain actually gets paid something. Because right now, those who are not collaborating on flash calling, without knowing it, they're terminating, or rather not terminating, calls that create the flash call transaction, and they're getting nothing for it. So increasingly, what carriers are seeking to do is saying, okay, I want to work with partners who I trust, and I'll let their flash calls through, but I don't want the renegades to get through. And with the ones that I let through, we need to come to some kind of commercial arrangement. And I think that is something that is actually developing very quickly, because literally in the past 3 or 4 months, even those the most radically against have said, okay, we need to play in this, but we need to have a framework around it. We need to make sure there's no fraud involved, because, you know, as Iulian pointed out in his pitch, you know, prereq for all this is to clear fraud out of the system. And there's still a lot of, let's say, lack of self-awareness in the carrier community about their ability or not to deal with anti-fraud. Lack of self-awareness or arrogance, you can pick the expression. But it's definitely an area that everybody's going into. The question is the framework that you put around it to control it, to make it secure, and to make sure that everybody in the chain gets a piece of it.
That's it. Everyone needs the piece of the pie. And it reminds me rather similarly to where the world of A2P SMS was exactly a decade ago or thereabout.
Exactly. That's exactly it, right? And we all know that A2P SMS was kind of riddled with fraudulent traffic. I think at some stage of the stats, like up to 70% of revenues went to the fraudsters. Again, as Iulian pointed out, there's still a lot of fraud in voice, and a lot of the anti-fraud mechanisms are still old-fashioned firewalls. I mean, that's gone. People need to realize, and the whole conversation around using SRM is very important and pertinent, and actually part of something that is really across all parts of the industry now, which is you need to be proactive. You need to know what's going on now, and you need to be proactive and act on real-time data.
I was going to come to that, Carl. You touched on something. You touched on something. We've got a question from the audience, and I don't know whether you, Ehsan or Iulian, want to answer this. And how do you detect? It's one I know you will have received many times, and when you're talking to prospects, how do you actually detect flash calling? Because using missed call records, which is what you've just said, Carl, so after the fact, it's like shutting the stable door once the horse has bolted and run off. It's pointless once you've got that CDR. So how do you actually go about doing it, Iulian or Ehsan, either one of you?
Everything happening on the signaling level. So that's something that also we mentioned in the slide. So it's not CDR based. We use the CDR to build patterns and to feed the algorithms and to build data as part of the data points in order to build the machine learning model. But afterwards, most of mitigation is on the signaling level. So when the call reach to the network, we can at a quite high accuracy to realize if it is flash or it is other type of fraud. I mean, I just used to listen also the previous session. Most of the fraud that was mentioned in that session could be mitigated, identified and mitigated at the level of signaling before reaching the network of the MNO. And okay, there is always an error margin, and the accuracy is not 100%. So that's why we try to make sure that even if we balance very well the false positive and false negative, so making sure that no legitimate call will be impacted. So even sometimes, it's like a police. You let some criminal maybe to escape to make sure that you will not shoot a right person, or you do not shoot an innocent. So on the end of the day, we cannot mitigate 100% of all type of fraud or flash specifically, but 95% can be identified at the signaling level, definitely thanks to the machine learning model, which also CDRs are part of the game. Is not, but whatever is now, most of the solution, okay, not for even not for Flash, for other type of voice type of fraud are based on CDR, which means that almost the damage is already done when you realize, when you find, because CDR is a kind of post-event. Whatever is recorded is a CDR, call duration record. It's happening after the call is realized and completed. So the fraud is already happened. So what you can use from CDR is to learn from the CDR, building a model in order to move to the signaling level in order to prevent.
So it's about learning from the past, looking at the patterns and bringing that knowledge into the real world with real-time information and aligning the two. So that takes time and that takes knowledge. And obviously, if you've got a global presence and you've got access to data coming from loads of different places, that helps. Exactly. Okay, thank you. Bringing Sam back in, we're nearly at the end of our time together, but you're you're a researcher. At the end of the day, you've got a really nice overview across so many countries and territories. Are you seeing people view, has this shifted, and what trend do you see with people viewing? They used to view A2P voice flash as a threat, block, but now, thanks to the likes of Vox Solutions and Ehsan and others in the industry out there, actively pushing the fact that it can be an opportunity and you can monetize it. Is that getting through to the market? Is it a slow burn, or do you think there will be a realization fairly rapidly, actually, it's a great opportunity for us carriers?
I do think that the carriers will eventually settle on monetizing the A2P voice traffic. I think it's the most sensible way to go. I think obviously the hesitancy at the moment is as Ehsan was saying, about machine learning. The big benefit of A2P SMS at the moment, excuse me, is that it has all this traffic and all this data to feed into a machine learning algorithm, which means that it's more efficient at detecting what's A2P and what's P2P, and what's monetizable in terms of the cost of the traffic. That hesitancy, I think, will slowly fade away over the next year or 2 years. We're going to see more and more carriers working with companies like Vox Solutions, looking to monetize, detect first of all, and then monetize their A2P voice traffic. I think the other side of it is obviously on the security and fraud side of things. In a general sense, wherever there's money, you're always going to see people who are going to look to capitalize on it. And that's the main thing. And as voice grows, the needs for solutions like the one that Vox Solutions provides are going to become more and more important. Carriers will notice that in the very near future, as people try to mainly, we saw it with grey routes over SMS. You'll see see people that companies that are trying to masquerade A2P voice as P2P voice, and then operators are going to be losing out on that potential revenue. And you're going to see a very similar, as you said before, pathway that A2P SMS took, where carriers need to work with third parties to.
But Sam, let's hope they wake up to this opportunity sooner than they did to A2P SMS, and it doesn't take a decade. Let's hope that. Anyway, believe it or not, our half an hour together is up. I'd like to thank Ehsan, Iulian from Vox, Carl from Hadaara Consulting, Sam from Juniper Research. Thank you for throwing, should I say, more light on this subject. There's clearly a real opportunity here for mobile network operators. Don't just view A2P voice flash calling as a threat and bury it. There's a real opportunity here. Monetize it effectively and smartly. And at the end of the day, you'll have another very nice service in your arsenal. I think that's the clear message here. Thank you all. And I look forward to introducing the next session very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Bye.